welcome everyone, and a very happy new year to all of you. I hope you had a very good Christmas and are safe and sound. And if I don't know you, I'm John, Father John Deere, and thank you for joining me to spend a little of your New Year's Day together in a spirit of peace and reflection on nonviolence and trying to commit ourselves to go deeper into gospel nonviolence, to becoming better, more mature disciples of the nonviolent Jesus. I'm calling this the year of living nonviolently. And my thinking was, we could start all over again from scratch and go deeper than ever before and take a bold step forward in our lives towards Jesus, towards becoming people of total nonviolence. Doesn't that sound fun? And this is all part of my new project with Ruth Ann, who's here. She's our co-host to the Beatitude Center for the Nonviolent Jesus, which, as you know, is beatitudes.org. So just a few preliminaries. Like I did before, if you were with our Advent series, please mute yourselves if you haven't, and please don't unmute yourself unless you're invited. If you lose contact, just go back to your email link and click on the Zoom link again. Also, throughout your time, feel free to go to the chat box, which is at the bottom of the screen in the center, and say hello and type in a question or a comment toward everyone. And at the end, I'll try to look at your questions and reflections with you. If something happens and I get disconnected, not to worry. Think of it as God intervening, and you lucked out and you get a little break and you go get a bit more coffee, and I'll be right back, God willing. And also, if you haven't, do please get a pen and paper, because I want to do some writing with you. I want you to do, we're going to write down our goals for the new year. And if you have a journal, that would be even better. So the idea here is, if this is a little New Year's Day workshop, you're the ones doing the work. That's the plan, not me. You're working here, Joe Owen. Okay. So, yeah, I know. Hi. So we're in a strange time. Oh, my God. It's just so crazy. Lockdown and the global pandemic and Trump and Biden and racism and hatred and despair and nuclear weapons and climate change and everything going on in the world. But I was thinking this morning that as Christians, we don't look at time like everybody else. And this was a very big teaching for Daniel Berrigan. He said the Greeks had at least two words for time. And in the gospel, they never used time like we say it, ordinary time. Chronos, chronological time. That's not what's in the Gospels. So when Jesus appears and says, the time is at hand, repent and believe in the kingdom of God, every time the word time is used in the four Gospels, the weird, unusual Greek word kairos is used. And that's where we are today. Wow, if there was ever a kairos, that's what we're in. Write the word down. It's a great word, Kairos. Dan used it all the time. He even named our little local peace group, Kairos, in New York, which is still going. What does it mean? It means the critical moment, the right time, the opportune time for action. I know because I just looked it up in the Greek dictionary. And it means action, and it means God, and it means this once in a lifetime moment in history. So I like thinking of today as a Kairos moment in our lives. And because of that, that's why I thought I wanted to do this. I expected 5 of you to sign up, but I'm happy to have all of you. Because for me, it seems like a Kairos moment. And, what are we going to do about that? So that's what I thought we would look at today. And I just want to try to encourage you to start the new year off in a bold new direction, And there's so many ways to do this, and I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I have lots of ideas and mainly questions for your reflection. Feel free to write any of this down if any of this touches you or moves you. But one way to look at what we're talking about is, where has God been in your life this last year? And where is God coming to you right now on this Kairos moment? What is God saying to you right now? Where is God leading you in this new year? Go deeper into grace and peacemaking and gospel nonviolence and universal love. So that's the whole point of my reflection with you. If this is a little day of recollection, little retreat session, it's about you and God. Now, I have no idea what you're going to think about this, but this is what I've done for over 30 years, maybe 50 years. I'm a big believer in writing down goals. And I think, Ruth Ann, we put this in the advertisement for today. I don't know what happened, but I know that I often made retreats every year between Christmas and New Year's. And at some point, I reflect on the whole past year. And around New Year's Day, I write a whole list of goals for the new year, which I then pray over. Or like I'm a kid, I go and give them to Jesus, like my homework assignment. And he goes, "Oh, that sounds fantastic. Go and do it." So that's what I want to propose for you. And we're going to take some quiet time at the end here and write our goals for the new year. I mean, you can do short-term goals, medium-length goals, years for the whole year, goals for the whole year, and goals for the rest of your life. Holy New Year's resolution goals. A kind of a map, a roadmap for you. How would you like to live a new year of living nonviolently? What does that mean for you? What are you going to have to work on to present to God for you a year of living nonviolently? Isn't that a lovely thing to think about today in this Kairos moment? Really pursue total nonviolence. So let's begin with a prayer. So I invite you to take a moment of silence and welcome to bow your head or close your eyes or take a deep breath and notice how you're feeling this morning on this new year after 2020 and all that that's meant. And how are you feeling on this New Year's Day and the idea of calling this a Kairos moment in your life and for the human race. And I invite you to enter into the space of the God of peace who loves you personally, infinitely. Let's enter into the peace of God and the presence of the nonviolent Jesus and breathe in the Holy Spirit as we start this new year together. And please take a moment to ask for whatever graces you need to live a year of living nonviolently and graces that we all need for the world. God of peace, bless us now as we begin this new year, that we might move closer to you, that we might rise to the occasion and become better disciples of the nonviolent Jesus, your holy peacemakers, your beloved sons and daughters, and really live out our identities. Guide us as we reflect today on our lives and try to set new goals for this new year of living nonviolently, that we might deepen in your peace, love, and nonviolence, that we might carry out your work and your mission of peacemaking and justice and disarmament. Inspire us and use us throughout this new year to be teachers and practitioners and apostles and holy witnesses of gospel nonviolence, that we might do our part, the part that you've given to each one of us, to help the whole human race to end hatred, racism, war, poverty, violence, nuclear weapons, and environmental destruction, that we might be instruments of your holy peace, love, truth, and hope, and help welcome your reign of peace on earth. In Jesus' name, amen, amen, amen. Isn't that great, everybody? So I'm going to give you the outline now of the method to my madness. And I'm going to talk for a while. But again, you can start writing down your goals or taking notes or go get more coffee or lie down on the floor and take a nap, whatever helps you move more toward living nonviolently, or pray. Um, what I want to do is I'm going to begin with a story and then some Gandhi quotes, because you can never get enough Gandhi. And then I'm going to give you a long list of my questions, themes, or prompts for you to help you stir up what are my goals for this new year. And I've been thinking about them all week. And then I'm going to pick a gospel passage from Luke 5. I'm going to read it and share with you that passage. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread my long list of questions, themes, or prompts, just to stir in you what are the goals you want to set for yourself this year. And then we're going to have a good 5 minutes in silence, just to start the process of writing them down. And then you can work on your list of goals, and as I'm talking, or you can wait till the end there, but you can then continue them for the rest of the day and the next few days. But I hope by the end of our session, you would have a clear first draft of list of goals for yourself, small ones to big ones, that you could give to the nonviolent Jesus, that you could road marks for your map for a new year of living nonviolently. That's why you may want to just start writing your list as we're talking. And again, think of them in terms of deepening nonviolence. And that means your inner work of nonviolence, but your public active work for a new world of nonviolence, for justice and peace, and in relationship to Jesus, in better disciples of the nonviolent Jesus, and as people who live out the gospel. And as I said in the Advent series here, I'm like your coach. So I'm urging you and encouraging you to get in shape, to stretch, do some exercises now. I'm giving you a pep talk so that you can break new ground in your life and go forward and you know, rise to the occasion and become a new person of nonviolence in this Kairos moment. You know, a better follower of the nonviolent Jesus. That's what I'm trying to do. And I've actually been working on this since Christmas, even before. But for me personally, I've already started this process. And so we make it a new year. So here's my story. And I'm just looking at my notes. You may not like this, but here goes. This is what I was thinking that I wanted to share with you. Trying to work on this computer here, screen still. So it was March 19th or March 21st, 2003. You remember when the second Gulf War began under George W. Bush that night? And it was just so darn difficult. Everybody, we were all just so down, and it was very hard. And my friend and one of my teachers is Joan Baez, who I think has been involved in more nonviolent movements than maybe any other living person on the planet right now, actually. And she was giving a concert in Santa Fe, and I've known her for 35 years, and afterwards we stayed up real late sitting in her van talking. And those of you who are my friends who know me, I started to complain to Joan Baez and saying, oh, I've been working so hard to stop this war. I was living in New Mexico. I had 6 parishes, preaching every weekend, and one of them were all pro-war, and they went to the Archbishop and had me removed. I've written an article almost every week for a year against the impending war. I was speaking 2 or 3 trips a week to give lectures around the country. And the month before, I spoke with Jesse Jackson to 300,000 people in the Washington Mall on the big rally against the war. but I was just so heartbroken and depressed. And she was very depressed that night too. And she had just given a beautiful concert to 1,000 people, and but was very down. And I'm going on and on like this and saying this is very hard. And then I finally stopped talking, and there's this long pause, and Joan Baez leaned forwards and says to me, "Well, John, you know what Gandhi said?" Well, now this was very helpful right there. And she said, "You know what Gandhi said? Full effort is full victory. Full effort is full victory." To me, it's one of the great quotes of Gandhi. It was a guiding post for Joan for her whole life. And I think it was a real breakthrough for me, even though I knew that quote, that she would say that at that moment was really, really helpful. And so I wanted to share that quote with you as we began today. Full effort is full victory in the light of the God of peace, in this Kairos moment. And my question is, have you been given full effort? And unfortunately, the answer is no, none of us. And we can all do better. And that's what Gandhi meant, I think, because I've gone back, and that quote is in my Gandhi book. Anyway, in light of thinking about that Gandhi quote, um, what would it mean in this terrible moment to try harder to make a full effort for peace, for Jesus, for God, for nonviolence, and to trust that people who make full effort are already living in the victory of Christ, the victory of nonviolence. So when I talk about making goals, what I'm saying, and this is what I've been trying to do, what area do you need to work on to make the full effort of nonviolence, as Gandhi and Joan Baez are saying? So here's a few more quotes from Gandhi. This is just to stir some thoughts in you about what we're talking about. So as you know, I'm a big student of Gandhi. So here's what the first quote is how he defines nonviolence. Nonviolence, this is Gandhi, means avoiding injury to anything or anyone on earth in thought, word, or deed. Your nonviolence must shine through your speech, your action, and your general behavior. Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it's an inseparable part of your being. And here's the quote that I will be pondering for the rest of my life. This is Gandhi again. Devotion to nonviolence is the highest expression of humanity's conscious state. Nonviolence is the highest expression of our human consciousness. That's an incredible statement. Okay, some more. Nonviolence is the greatest and most active force in the world. One person who can express nonviolence in life exercises a force superior to all the forces of brutality combined. Now, this is very important. He goes on. My optimism rests on my belief in the infinite possibilities of the individual, of any individual, to develop nonviolence. The more you develop it in your own being, the more infectious it becomes till it overwhelms your surroundings and by, through you, oversweeps the world. So that's what we're going to get at today. Gandhi is saying anyone can reach total nonviolence. The more you work on it in yourself, the more infectious and contagious it becomes till it overwhelms everyone around you and through you, the whole world. Here's another very important Gandhi quote. I have not the shadow of a doubt that any man or woman can achieve what I have, if he or she would only make the same effort and cultivate the same hope and faith. The same effort that cultivate the same hope and faith. So I am inviting us today to aspire to a Gandhi level of total nonviolence as disciples of the nonviolent Jesus. Isn't that exciting? That's a big homework assignment for me too. And here's a second last Gandhi quote. I believe that that as one person gains spiritually, the whole world gains with with him or her. And if one person falls, the whole world falls to that extent. In other words, the depth that we all grow and deepen in nonviolence, spiritually and politically, has a positive effect on the whole world. So none of this is done in vain. The last quote is a quote from a young friend of mine that I've been teaching nonviolence to and spirituality. He just knocked his socks off, and he's been talking about it with me. So this is Gandhi again. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. What? Gandhi thinks that you can do this. It's just plain old-fashioned willpower and using the mind, which is what Thich Nhat Hanh teaches. We train our minds and our wills to go deeper into nonviolence. That's what your homework assignment is today. That's what we're trying to do. On New Year's Day, to take new steps this year to live a year of living nonviolently. How? Indomitable will. So another way to look at this, and I'm just going to keep offering these questions and themes. What do you want to do for the God of peace this year? Isn't that a nice question? What do you want to do for Jesus this year? Mother Teresa used to have that phrase a lot. Let's do something beautiful for God. And that's a lovely, gentle thing, the way to look at it. And what are your deepest desires? Now, St. Ignatius said long time ago, 500 years ago, that your deepest desires are holy. They're of God. Now, that's a profound, original teaching. And so what you have to really look deep. What is my deepest desire for God, for my life, before God? And how am I going to work at that this year? And if you're alive and breathing, you've got work to do. So there's no excuse here. We got a mission, and I love all that. So what I have here, if bearing your patience, is a long list, I haven't even gotten to them yet, of questions and themes or prompts. These are for your goals. And again, you can start writing down your goals now, but this is the way I've been doing it. And I wrote a long list of goals for me this morning, but I'll be spending the rest of the day on this for myself. So these are, just general areas to look at this whole new year together. So here goes. Okay. What about your goals for this year in terms of prayer and meditation? What's your goal for your relationship with God, with Jesus? To really turn and get closer to God and closer to Jesus, to have a more intimate, loving relationship, spend more time with God. What about the Gospels? What about what's your goal this year in terms of reading one of the four Gospels or all four Gospels? Okay, your inner work. What you need to do this year for your inner work to go deeper in terms of your nonviolence, your compassion, your forgiveness, your love toward others. How do you need, for example, to work? Where do you need to work on? If you've read my book, The Nonviolent Life, nonviolence to yourself. That should be one goal that you really want to be working on. Where do you need to work on being more nonviolent to yourself? Well, like my young friend who's new to all this was saying to me, working with me on how do I have more nonviolent thoughts? It was a very powerful question. And there's strategies you can do. There's tools you can use. You drop your negative thoughts and train yourself to have more positive thoughts. How can I have more nonviolent speech, to work on nonviolent communication? Again, there's tools there. Be really mindful of the words you use and what you choose to say, and train yourself not to say things that are going to be hurtful. And then your actions. How can your actions be more nonviolent this year? These are all goals to work on. What about towards people? How can you improve your nonviolence toward others in your relationships, at work, or maybe if you're in a lockdown towards your spouse, your partner, the people around you, because, when you're in lockdown, you're rubbing elbows. Who challenges you and who do you need to be more nonviolent toward? In other words, how can you deepen in being a real person of unconditional love and compassion and making peacemakers, making peace with everyone in your life? Okay, another aspect, the creatures and Mother Earth. What do you have to do this year to really make peace with all the creatures, especially in the light of how we're destroying the planet? 6 million creatures becoming extinct, species, and Mother Earth being destroyed. What are you going to do this year to really work on being more nonviolent toward Mother Earth and the creatures and humanity? And then we're going to widen this, okay? So let's say, please, dear God, we all get the vaccine, and maybe by the summer the lockdown lifts. What are you going to do publicly for God and humanity? This is my real big question for you. What are you going to do that's new to help promote the disarmament of the world and justice and environmental sustainability? And, again, if you've read my book, The Nonviolent Life, how are you going to get more involved with the grassroots movement? Because that's how change happens. And we need from now on the greatest, biggest global grassroots movement of nonviolence, the likes of which the world has never seen. That's the only way the world's going to survive these bad times. And that's what the Kairos is calling to, I believe. How are you, as my friend John Lewis said, going to get into good trouble? What good trouble are you planning this year as a holy disciple of Jesus, especially when the lockdown lifts? Very great question. Where is Jesus calling you to do your part in this global movement? How can you be a better peacemaker? How are you going to become a more mature disciple of the nonviolent Jesus, therefore a person of total nonviolence? Where are you on the road to peace? That's my favorite question. Are you going forward in the footsteps of Jesus, or are you going backwards like the culture? Are you stuck in a rut? Where do you need to get up and get moving? Back on track, heading forward, following Jesus. Now notice here those are my prompts. And friends, I'm going to read through that whole list one more time because I think it's very important. But if you're following me, notice that that I'm not talking about, how should I put it, your career, my work in the world. I'm talking about your vocation, which is a much deeper spiritual thing. How is Jesus calling you personally right now, New Year's Day, at your age, after all you've been through in this Kairos moment? Forget what you think. What is Jesus saying to you? What is the God of peace calling to you? And only you can answer that. And that's why writing these goals is so much fun. So having said that, now I'm going to turn and look at the gospel. This is going to be, I'm going to read a passage from the Gospel of Luke. If you want to write it down, it's Luke chapter 5, verse 1. It's just 1 through 11. It's just the story of Jesus calling Peter to join his campaign. And again, remember, the way I always look at the gospel story is that it presents Jesus as the greatest person of nonviolence in history, who practices and teaches total nonviolence, who builds a community and forms a campaign of total nonviolence, who marches to Jerusalem to confront the whole empire of violence and war and injustice and engages in all this civil disobedience. Of course, he's arrested and killed, and he goes to his death in total peace and nonviolence and forgiveness. And he comes back nicer than ever. He rises from the dead, offers us his gift of peace to his friends, and then calls us to follow him and carry on his campaign of active nonviolence. And that's what we are trying to do today, using New Year's Day as a time to reflect on, okay, how am I going to carry on Jesus's mission in the world? So this is a reading from Luke chapter 5, verse 1. Here goes. So I invite you to listen. While the crowd was pressing in on Jesus and listening to the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. He saw 2 boats there alongside the lake. The fishermen had disembarked and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, he asked him to put out a short distance from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. After he finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep waters and lower your nets for a catch." And Simon said in reply, "Master, we have worked hard all night and have caught nothing, but at your command I will lower the nets." When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets were tearing. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and they filled both boats so that both boats were in danger of sinking. And when Simon saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For astonishment at the catch of fish they had made seized him and all those with him, and likewise James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men and women. You will be fishers of men and women." When they brought their boats to the shore, they left everything and followed him. Wow. Put your net, lower your nets, put out, how does the phrase go? I'm going to read it again. Put out into deep waters and lower your nets for a catch. That's the theme for today and the year of living nonviolently. Jesus is saying to you, put out into deep waters, lower your nets for a catch. Isn't that great? I love that. And I've been thinking about that all my life. And so let me just point a few things out to the story about the story. So a crowd is gathered by the Sea of Galilee to hear the holy rabbi. And he asked Simon if he could, use this fishing boat to teach the crowd. And Simon agrees. And notice this is not Peter. This guy's not yet a disciple. He's still Simon, the pre-disciple name, very important. And so he teaches because, Simon has helped him, and then he finishes and he says to, Simon, "I'm going to help you catch some fish." And he gives this incredible statement, which we can ponder. Put out into deep waters and lower your nets for a catch. Now, what does Simon do? He objects. "No way. Who do you think you are? Hey, I'm a professional fisherman. You're just a rabbi. We've been out all night. We've caught nothing. And you're here talking about peace, love, nonviolence, compassion. But excuse me, okay, say the word and we'll do what you say." You see where I'm going with this? This is very, very instructive behavior for all of us. He pushes back. He resists the call to put out into deep waters. It's what each one of us do. Why? Why does Simon balk? Hey, I've been fishing all night long. He's scared. And so are we. Sometimes I say, "Jesus, I've been fishing my whole life. I never caught a thing." but okay, yeah, right. And we're scared too. But he's still in the boat with Jesus, and Jesus is a very nice guy, and Jesus is engaging him, which means he's loving him, and he's still insisting. So Simon does it because he's not alone, he's with Jesus. Um, I think that that's the way forward for our life. Even if you're scared, if you're in relationship with Jesus, who's very gentle and totally harmless, you can put out into deep waters. Later, there's going to be another scene in a certain boat with Peter and the gang, and they're alone this time, and there's a storm, and Jesus comes walking at 3 in the morning on the water, and Peter is terrified, says, if it's real, you told me to walk out the water, and Jesus says, come. And Peter walks on water because his eyes are on Jesus. He's living in relationship. The minute he takes his eyes off Jesus, right, he starts sinking. So, but if you're in relationship with Jesus, you can do anything, including put out into deep waters and lower your nets. So Simon does it. And what happens, he catches a lot. So notice a couple other things here that Simon moves from saying, Master, at your word, we'll lower our nets, to depart from me, Lord, because he's overcome with astonishment. The word in the Greek is overwhelming. Depart from me, Lord, for I'm a sinful man. I mean, it's not just shock and astonishment. He's actually terrified at the catch. This is very, very important. And he falls to the knees of Jesus. It's interesting. He says he falls to, the word knees is there. Something happens when we encounter God. We suddenly realize the depths of our nothingness, like in the Buddhist sense, our emptiness, our limitations. You can take this any way you want. You don't have to use the difficult word here, sin, but you can use that too. Selfishness, ego, brokenness, failing, and we're terrified at our nothingness in the face of God, that 1 or 2 moments in your life that you've encountered God. So it's a moment of realization, and deep truth, and fear, and humility, and this is a great grace. Because in that moment, as we're looking at our own nothingness, we're experiencing the infinite mercy of God, the unconditional, infinite, universal love of God, the total compassionate, infinite compassion of God, the total nonviolence of God in the person of the nonviolent Jesus. That's what Simon encounters there. And that's what happens when we encounter God. And it's in that moment, Jesus says to each one of us, do not be afraid, do not be afraid, do not be afraid. Follow me and join my campaign to disarm every human being on earth and lead every human being into total nonviolence and universal love, into the reign of God. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men and women, catchers of men and women. And they drop everything and walk away and follow him. And if you think about it, they would have been really rich with that many fish, right? They caught 500 fish, could have fed the whole village in the whole northern region of Galilee. They could have made a fortune. And they leave all the fish on the shore and walk away. They're still poor. Meanwhile, the crowd now has all this fish. So in effect, Jesus has fed the entire crowd. Everyone gets a fish, except for Simon, Andrew, James, and John, who are called to follow Jesus. And they let go of their fears. They feel the infinite love and compassion and nonviolence of God in Jesus. And they're have no problem in just dropping everything and walking away. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been studying this story, full time for 40 years. And a lot of the scholars say that this is actually a resurrection story. Did you know that? Isn't that interesting? Because if you in the Gospel of John, which is written 50 years after the synoptic stories, there you have in John 21 a scene of the disciples out fishing and the risen Jesus on the shore. And he says, hey, throw your nets over the other side for a catch. And they catch so many fish, and the beloved disciple recognizes it's Jesus. And what does Peter do? He jumps into the water because he's okay. Yeah. Peter, James, and John to me are like the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges. I'm trying to make you laugh here, but you're all muted, and I don't think you're laughing. So anyway, and Lucy, I always joke that Martha and Mary are like Lucy and Ethel, but we better not go into that right now. There, in John 21, at the end of the gospel, Jesus turns to Simon Peter and says, follow me. It's absolutely shocking, actually. Because if you think about it, Simon Peter has been with him from the beginning. He saw Jesus transfigured on Mount Tabor in, transfiguration. He was at the Last Supper. He was with Jesus in Gethsemane. Okay, he denied Jesus, but he went as far as he could in crucifixion. And then he's there with the risen Jesus in the resurrection. And only then, after everything he's been through, is he called to become a disciple. And that's us today in the Kairos moment. How about that? After everything we've been through in our whole lives, that's why I love thinking about where are you on the road to peace, your discipleship journey. After everything that's happened to you, even now, if you're an older person, only now were we being called to become disciples. That's what happened to Simon Peter, and he did it. They did a good job, and that's why that's what I want us to use today. That's what I'm thinking about, and so I don't know if you can. Hear my little cat walking around meowing in the background here because he's a little fed up that I'm talking so loud. That's Francis, my cat. I named him after Pope Francis, St. Francis, and Robert Francis Kennedy. I haven't decided which yet. But anyway, he's throwing a fit over here. But back to the gospel. What you and I want to do are be people today who do not say, depart from me, Lord. Simon was wrong, but happily he didn't run away. We want to say, stay with us, Jesus, because we're sinful or selfish or nothing. We need you. And then we want to say yes to everything. Okay, yes. Today, in this Kairos moment, I will put out into deep waters. Yes, I will lower my nets for a catch to do your will, your work. Yes, I will not be afraid because I know you're with me and you don't want me to live in fear. So I'm not going to do it. Yes, I will follow you all over again. Here, what apparently seems like the end of the journey is just the beginning of the journey to what we don't know yet. It's wonderful. And yes, Jesus, I want to be a fisher of men and women. I want to take up your resurrection mission and your global campaign of nonviolence for humanity. So I love all that. So when did Jesus first call you? What did he say to you? And how is Jesus calling you today? And when you're writing down these goals, in other words, I'm saying, how is Jesus saying to you, put out into deep waters and lower your nets for a catch? How is Jesus saying to you in this Kairos moment, do not be afraid. Come after me, follow me, because I have a job for you to be fisher of men and women in my work for justice and peace and nonviolence. It's wonderful stuff to ponder. So when you are writing your goals, and we're getting ready to take our writing break right now, you can be very, very, very concrete and specific. And for those of us who've been doing this all our life, yes, go ahead and put down, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to clean out that closet. I'm going to finally get rid of all those books. I'm going to donate extra clothes to Goodwill. I'm going to donate extra food. I'm going to, you know, work on being kinder to my neighbor whom I don't like, whatever it is. But what I want to push you a little bit, okay? And really, this is just me as your coach, is I want you to write all that stuff down and then go beyond that, to put out into deep waters. Now, ultimately, this is not me telling you what to do. I want to ask you, what is Jesus calling you to do? But I'm framing it. I'm going to say a few things to get you to expand your vision and not to be afraid to try to do that in the new year. One of the saddest things about Gandhi, is he gets independence in India. It's an incredible accomplishment. And he teaches everybody to be nonviolent. And what happens? India breaks out into civil war and splits into East Pakistan and Pakistan, West Pakistan and India. And over 1 million people were killed each other, maybe 3 million. And Gandhi went to his death quite depressed. And his teaching was, I taught nonviolence, but they ended up practicing the nonviolence of the weak. That's not what I meant. I want the nonviolence of the brave. And that's the nonviolence of Jesus, and then Peter and the apostles, and Gandhi and Dorothy Day and Dr. King. And if we want to rise to the occasion, we want to be people who have the nonviolence of the brave. And that's going to mean, putting out into deep waters. And that may mean looking at your fears. And that may mean how can I do something new and put out into deep waters? Well, you can do it because Jesus is with you. That's going to be how you're going to do it. You're going to be in the boat with Jesus. You're going to stay close to Jesus from this day to the day you die. So where I'm going with this, buckle your seatbelts, everybody, is I would like you to think big and to be bold and to challenge yourself to claim your power and to not feel powerless. Remember, Dr. King defined nonviolence as power. He said you have the power to change the world. And when I think of that, I think of many, many people I know over my rich life who were talking like they could change the world. And I'd be looking at them as a kid and going, who do you think you are? And I wanted to tell you a few of these examples because I want to do that too. And I want you to think bigger. So some of you may know, and just hang in here with me if you can. 25 years ago, I was under house arrest after the Plowshares action. The Smithsonian said they were putting on the display the Enola Gay, the actual plane that dropped the Hiroshima bomb. It spent millions of dollars on this mammoth display. It said this plane saved 1 million American lives, which we now know is a total lie. And I went over to them and said, you better not do that. I'm going to call in the peace movement, and we're going to call for a boycott of the Smithsonian. And we did. And then the Pentagon freaked out, and they went to Congress, and they threatened to cut the funding of the Pentagon. And so the whole exhibit was taken down. Millions of dollars they lost. And we had a big press conference in front of the Smithsonian it was on all the evening news, August 1995. And I invited many people, and Daniel Ellsberg was there. And afterwards, this is the point of my story, I turned to Daniel Ellsberg and I said, well, that was good, Dan, we did it. We got rid of the exhibit. And he looked at me and was appalled. He said, we're not here to get rid of this exhibit. I want to end nuclear weapons. We're here to abolish nuclear weapons. That's the job of our life. I never forgot that. Phil Berrigan used to talk to me like that. Tutu talked with me like that. When Martin Sheen and I went over, whenever 10 years ago, to Norway, we gave the keynote speech at the opening of the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, you know, which just won the Nobel Peace Prize 3 years ago. And we met all the leading experts around the planet and the government of Norway. And they said, we're going to abolish nuclear weapons. That's what we're going to do. And I looked at them and I was like, Martin and I have been at this for a long time. But they're crazy. They're a little crazy. No, we're going to do it. And you know what's happening in January 22nd? The UN treaty becomes law, which says nuclear weapons are outlawed. And that's from those people that Martin Sheen and I met, whom we thought were crazy. And they brought us in to give the keynote speech because they think we're really crazy. And we're a little, yeah. So they did it, and they're on track. They have a 15-year plan, and I believe them now. I could go on and on of people who think very differently than you and I, and that's what I want you to do today. I want you to expand the vision of what you think you can do. I'll tell one other story. My friend, Sister Helen Praijan, whom I met 30 years ago in Maine, we were both speaking at a conference. She wasn't famous then. And she's sitting there. We had the afternoon off. We skipped all the workshops. So we sat and had coffee and ate all afternoon in the cafeteria. And she's telling me, I'm going to work to end the death penalty. And I'm going, uh-huh. And she was on the phone last week with me, telling me, we're ending this death penalty, John. She hadn't changed one bit in 30 years. She's just on fire. How can you do that? How can we put out into deep waters and have a big, bold vision? On my bucket list now are, I'm going to work to abolish war. I'm going to work to abolish the death penalty. This is my goal for the year. I want to help abolish nuclear weapons and racism and environmental destruction. I've written that down. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to work on that this year. It's part of my goal to make a positive difference in the world. That's how I want to put out into deep waters. So I'm going to read that list again, or just highlight some of them. In terms of your goals, prayer and meditation, your relationship with God and Jesus, your inner work and being more nonviolent to yourself, your relationships and being more nonviolent toward others, the creatures and Mother Earth, and how are you going to get ready to get more involved in the grassroots movement for disarmament and justice, to work to help end war and poverty and racism and nuclear weapons and environmental destruction? How are you going to become a better peacemaker, a better disciple of the nonviolent Jesus? This New Year's Day, choosing to do that. So lovely. Or how are you going to put out into deep waters with Jesus? Lower your nets for a catch, recognize God in your midst, renounce your fears, and really start following Jesus all over again, doing what he was on his campaign. So I got my phone here, and I'm going to put it on 5 minutes. So get out your pen and paper, everybody, your journal. If you haven't been writing your goals, now's your homework assignment. I'm going to give you 5 full minutes. And I'm going to press the timer, and I'm going to say go, and you start writing, and don't stop till I tell you. It's only 5 minutes just to get it going. Go. So you can begin to wrap it up. If you can hear me, you all. That's about 5 minutes. And I know you could go on. We could all, can you all hear me? Yeah. So you can keep working on this throughout today. And I started early this morning, and I just wrote a bunch more because you just get in the zone, the Zoom mood for New Year's Day, and just keep adding to your list. And then I want you to pray over the list. Take your list to Jesus. And you can stay with this list of goals for weeks. I mean, the whole month of January, really work on them, and then continue to return to them through the year. And one of the things that I do every year at Christmas is look back at my goals I wrote at the beginning of the year. And maybe if we all survive, Ruth Ann, we could do this again next year. And we can all come back next year and see how did we do with our goals, you know? But I don't know if this was helpful. I've never done this before. And as you see, I'm making it all up as I go. But I am speaking from my experience. And so I hope it was helpful.